The masses have never thirsted after truth. They turn aside from evidence that is not to their taste, preferring to deify error if error seduced them. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. Whoever attempts to destroy their illusions is always their victim. Diseases of the body can spread through a population and reach epidemic proportions, but so too can diseases of the mind. And of these epidemics of the latter variety, the mass psychosis is the most dangerous. During a mass psychosis, madness becomes the norm in a society, and delusionary beliefs spread like a contagion. But as delusions can take many forms, and as madness can manifest in countless ways, the specific manner in which a mass psychosis unfolds will differ based on the historical and cultural context of the infected society. In the past, mass psychoses have led to witch hunts, genocides, and even dancing manias. But in the modern era, it is the mass psychosis of totalitarianism that is the greatest threat. Totalitarianism, writes Arthur Versluis, is the modern phenomenon of total centralized state power, coupled with the obliteration of individual human rights. In the totalized state, there are those in power, and there are the objectified masses, the victims. In a totalitarian society, the population is divided into two groups, the rulers and the ruled, and both groups undergo a pathological transformation. The rulers are elevated to an almost godlike status, which is diametrically opposed to our nature as imperfect beings who are easily corrupted by power. The masses, on the other hand, are transformed into the dependent subjects of these pathological rulers and take on a psychologically regressed and childlike status. Hannah Arendt, one of the 20th century's preeminent scholars of this form of rule, called totalitarianism an attempted transformation of human nature itself. But this attempted transformation only turns sound minds into sick minds. For as the Dutch medical doctor who studied the mental effects of living under totalitarianism wrote, "There is in fact much that is comparable between the strange reactions of the citizens of totalitarianism and their culture as a whole, on the one hand, and the reactions of the sick schizophrenic on the other. The social transformation that unfolds under totalitarianism is built upon and sustained by delusions. For only deluded men and women regress to the childlike status of obedient and submissive subjects, and hand over complete control of their lives to politicians and bureaucrats. Only a deluded ruling class will believe that they possess the knowledge, wisdom, and acumen to completely control society in a top-down manner. And only when under the spell of delusions would anyone believe that a society composed of power-hungry rulers on the one hand, and a psychologically regressed population on the other, will lead to anything other than mass suffering and social ruin."
Right.
But what triggers the psychosis of totalitarianism? As was explored in the previous video of this series, the mass psychosis of totalitarianism begins in a society's ruling class. The individuals that make up this class, be it politicians, bureaucrats, or crony capitalists, are very prone to delusions that augment their power. And no delusion is more attractive to the power-hungry than the delusion that they can and should control and dominate a society. When a ruling elite becomes possessed by a political ideology of this sort, be it communism, fascism, or technocracy, the next step is to induce a population into accepting their rule by infecting them with the mass psychosis of totalitarianism. This psychosis has been induced many times throughout history, and as Mirlu explains, it is simply a question of reorganizing and manipulating collective feelings in the proper way. The general method by which the members of a ruling elite can accomplish this end is called...
Two things I ain't never seen, man. There's a UFO and a bitch I need, you know what I'm saying, man?
Menticide, with the etymology of this word being a killing of the mind, and as Mirlu further explains, menticide is an old crime against the human mind and spirit, but systematized anew. It is an organized system of psychological intervention and judicial perversion through which a ruling class can imprint their own opportunistic thoughts upon the minds of those they plan to use and destroy. Priming a population for the crime of menticide begins with the sowing of fear. For as was explored in the first video of this series, when an individual is flooded with negative emotions such as fear or anxiety, he or she is very susceptible to a descent into the delusions of madness. Threats, real, imagined, or fabricated, can be used to sow fear, but a particularly effective technique is to use waves of terror. Under this technique, the sowing of fear is staggered with periods of calm, but each of these periods of calm is followed by the manufacturing of an even more intense spell of fear. And on the process goes. Or as Mirlu writes, each wave of terrorizing creates its effects more easily after a breathing spell than the one that preceded it, because people are still disturbed by their previous experience. Morality becomes lower and lower, and the psychological effects of each new propaganda campaign become stronger. It reaches a already softened up. While fear primes a population for menticide, the use of propaganda to spread misinformation and to promote confusion with respect to the source of the threats and the nature of the crisis helps to break down the minds of the masses. Government officials and their lackeys in the media can use contradictory reports, nonsensical information, and even blatant lies. As the more they confuse, the less capable will a population be to cope with the crisis and diminish their fear in a rational and adaptive manner. Confusion, in other words, heightens the susceptibility of a descent into the delusions of totalitarianism. Or as Mirlu explains, logic can be met with logic, while illogic cannot. It confuses those who think straight. The big lie and monotonously repeated nonsense have more emotional appeal than logic and reason. While the people are still searching for a reasonable counter-argument to the first lie, the totalitarians can assault them with another. Never before in history have such effective means existed to manipulate a society into the psychosis of totalitarianism.
Cell phones.
Smartphones and social media, television and the internet, all in conjunction with algorithms that quickly censor the flow of unwanted information, allow those in power to easily assault the minds of the masses. What is more, the addictive nature of these technologies means that many people voluntarily subject themselves to the ruling elite's propaganda with a remarkable frequency. Modern technology, explains Mirlu, teaches man to take for granted the world he is looking at. He takes no time to retreat and reflect. Technology lures him on, dropping him into its wheels and movements. No rest, no meditation, no reflection, no conversation. The senses are continually overloaded with stimuli. Man doesn't learn to question his world anymore. The screen offers him answers, ready-made. But there is a further step the would-be totalitarian rulers can take to increase the chance of a totalitarian psychosis. And this is to isolate the victims and to disrupt normal social interactions. When alone and lacking normal interactions with friends, family, and co-workers, an individual becomes far more susceptible to delusions for several reasons. Firstly, they lose contact with the corrective force of the positive example. For not everyone is tricked by the machinations of the ruling elite, and the individuals who see through the propaganda can help free others from the menticidal assault. If, however, isolation is enforced, the power of these positive examples greatly diminishes. But another reason that isolation increases the efficacy of menticide is because, like many other species, human beings are more easily conditioned into new patterns of thought and behavior when isolated. Or as Mirlu explains with regards to the physiologist Ivan Pavlov's work on behavioral conditioning, Pavlov made another significant discovery. The conditioned reflex could be developed most easily in a quiet laboratory with a minimum of disturbing stimuli. Every trainer of animals knows this from his own experience. Isolation and the patient repetition of stimuli are required to tame wild animals. The totalitarians have followed this rule. They know that they can condition their political victims most quickly if they are kept in isolation. Alone, confused, and battered by waves of terror, a population under an attack of menticide descends into a hopeless and vulnerable state. The never-ending stream of propaganda turns minds once capable of rational thought into playhouses of irrational forces. And with chaos swirling around them and within them, the masses crave a return to a more ordered world. The would-be totalitarians can now take the decisive step. They can offer a way out and a return to order in a world that seems to be moving rapidly in the opposite direction. But all this comes at a price. The masses must give up their freedom and cede control of all aspects of life to the ruling elite. They must relinquish their capacity to be self-reliant individuals who are responsible for their own lives and become submissive and obedient subjects. The masses, in other words, must descend into the delusions of the totalitarian psychosis. Totalitarianism, writes Mirlu, is man's escape from the fearful realities of life into the virtual womb of the leaders. The individual's actions are directed from this womb, from the inner sanctum.
Sheesh.
Man need no longer assume responsibility for his own life. The order and logic of the prenatal world reign. There is peace and silence, the peace of utter submission. But the order of a totalitarian world is a pathological order. By enforcing a strict conformity and requiring a blind obedience from the citizenry, totalitarianism rids the world of the spontaneity that produces many of life's joys and the creativity that drives society forward. The total control of this form of rule, no matter under what name it is branded, be it rule by scientists and doctors, politicians and bureaucrats, or a dictator, breeds stagnation, destruction, and death on a mass scale. And so perhaps the most important question facing the world is how can totalitarianism be prevented? And if a society has been induced into the early stages of this mass psychosis, can the effects be reversed?
Right.
While one can never be sure of the prognosis of a collective madness, there are steps that can be taken to help effectuate a cure. This task, however, necessitates many different approaches from many different people. For just as the menticidal attack is multi-pronged, so too must be the counterattack. According to Carl Jung, for those of us who wish to help return sanity to an insane world, the first step is to bring order to our own minds and to live in a way that provides inspiration for others to follow. It is not for nothing that our age cries out for the Redeemer personality, for the one who can emancipate himself from the grip of the collective psychosis and save at least his own soul, who lights a beacon of hope for others, proclaiming that here is at least one man who has succeeded in extricating himself from the fatal identity with the group psyche. But assuming one is living in a manner free of the grip of the psychosis, there are further steps that can be taken. Information that counters the propaganda should be spread as far and as wide as possible. For the truth is more powerful than the fiction and falsities peddled by the would-be totalitarian rulers. And so their success is in part contingent on their ability to censor the free flow of information. Another tactic is to use humor and ridicule to delegitimize the ruling elite, or as Mirlu explains, we must learn to treat the demagogue and aspirant dictators in our midst with the weapon of ridicule. The demagogue himself is almost incapable of humor of any sort, and if we treat him with humor, he will begin to collapse. A tactic recommended by Václav Havel, a political dissident under Soviet communist rule, who later became president of Czechoslovakia, is the construction of what are called parallel structures. A parallel structure is any form of organization, business, institution, technology, or creative pursuit that exists physically within a totalitarian society, yet morally outside of it. In communist Czechoslovakia, Havel noted that these parallel structures were more effective at combating totalitarianism than political action. Furthermore, when enough parallel structures are created, a second culture, or parallel society, spontaneously forms and functions as an enclave of freedom and sanity within a totalitarian world. Or as Havel explains in his book, The Power of the Powerless. What else are parallel structures than an area where a different life can be lived? A life that is in harmony with its own aims, and which in turn structures itself in harmony with those aims. What else are those initial attempts at social self-organization than the efforts of a certain part of society to rid itself of the self-sustaining aspects of totalitarianism, and thus, to extricate itself radically from its involvement in the totalitarian system? But above all else, what is required to prevent a full descent into the madness of totalitarianism is action by as many people as possible. For just as the ruling elite do not sit around passively, but instead take deliberate steps to increase their power, so too, an active and concerted effort must be made to move the world back in the direction of freedom. This can be an immense challenge in a world falling prey to the delusions of totalitarianism. But as Thomas Paine noted, tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph.
All right, that was not too bad. I mean, let's get
article from 1918 from Washington, D.C., and found it really odd that in the bottom left-hand corner, they were mentioning a group of Russian fighters that are said to be the last set of Russian Tatar warriors. Russian Tatar warriors? What? The last set? Did they capture Tartaria within the last 300 years and take their warriors? I believe so. In episode 24, we talked about Tartaria's flag showing a dragon and then showing Russia's flag, and it showed the horse trampling the dragon. And was this a dragon? Or was this a griffin? We'll begin to talk about griffins in future episodes. I really think we're beginning to see that present-day Russia did take over this Tartarian empire, and it was not thousands of years ago. It might have been the key that started this brand new timeline that our current civilization is living within. Thank you for joining me for episode 25 of my lunch break. I hope you're all having a great day, and if you're new, welcome.
Oh yeah. Hold on, let me like the video. These dudes' videos are good.
In 1386, of course. Only 637 years ago.
Hold on,
and we have to remember how advanced the people... And I want to give a shout out to our sponsor over on Patreon, Victor Perez. For only $19.99 a month, you can also be a sponsor on this channel and get a shout out for the next 4 weeks as well. That link will be right in the description below. Thank you for your support. The Milan Cathedral looks like something we built today, doesn't it? I think my town built a few of these last year. Could you imagine? Construction began on the Milan Cathedral in 1386, of course, only 637 years ago. And we have to remember how advanced the people of 1386 were. They drove around in electric cars, had wireless internet. They could video call each other from thousands of miles away, and could press a button and get their groceries delivered to their house. Oh wait, no, that's us. What did they have? Flying cars?
Not much.
What? They rode around on donkeys and didn't have bathrooms in their house? How is it possible that they built the Milan Cathedral then, and we can't today? Do you all get the point? Which construction company worked for 600 years? The narrative is ridiculous. The way they explain the people from 600 years ago is insane. They were obviously more technologically advanced than us at the time that this cathedral was built. Remember, I always say that this is my opinion, and you can believe whatever you would like to believe. This is all based on my research, and I'm just sharing what I've found in my own way. But, no, we did not build this cathedral. If we did, we, meaning this current civilization that we are living with today, then why did we stop building with this type of perfection all over the world, not just in Italy? This is a worldwide agenda that is keeping back knowledge that we previously had, and we're clearly capable of doing. There is some sort of suppression going on, and when we see this cathedral, it makes us very easy to understand. It's right in our faces. You can see it. You don't need to convince anyone that this is incredible and way out of our league. 135 spires, 354 feet in the air. Here, they show a fake picture drawing of this cathedral in 1745. So for 359 years, they basically didn't get anything done. In this depiction, they have no spires, no incredible architecture, No stonework. It even shows some wood planks at the top, pretending like that was how they built. So now an updated photo in 1838, only 93 years later. What do you know? The whole thing is done and completed. Because the 1800s people just knew what they were doing, of course. This couldn't be more of a joke, in my opinion. This did not take 600 years to build. It didn't take generations upon generations of people to build. Whoever built this had the knowledge and built it within their lifetime. This is the same insane type of narrative that they tried to get away with for the construction of the Cologne Cathedral in Germany. Here they try to give us a list of all the masterminds behind this project. 78 people. Over 600 years. The first 63 people were basically useless, since nothing was accomplished until 1800, according to the narrative. My point here, and of course my opinion, is that these people are all a bunch of fake names, fake characters, or had no involvement in the construction of this building, especially any character that is given to us that is said to be before the year 1800. Because right around this time period is where our timeline begins, in my opinion. And everything before that is null and void. And my first 24 episodes show hours of factual evidence of this. Now, it's possible it is around 1750, or if we're giving them the benefit of the doubt, possibly 1700. But if anyone can go back and look at your family tree, why does it stop at a certain point? Why can we not trace it back to 1600, 1500, 1400? None of us. How did our families get here? Where did we come from? Something happened is all I'm trying to say. Right around 300 years ago. Now, let's get back on track. What is going on with the front door of this Milan Cathedral? It looks like it's showing us an event, especially the top part that is covered by a net. It looks like there's something going on with the two individuals right in the center at the top. Like a very important meeting between two very important people. With angels and all these different type of people on the ground and other types of beings in the air that were able to fly. Just very interesting, whether it was a true event or not. But if they were the ones that constructed this place, then why wouldn't they put something important on their front door? I would love to go there and see this up close. Now let's go inside these giant storytelling doors and see what's inside. We are given marble flooring. Marble columns. The ceiling is clearly a pattern that is meaningful to a knowledgeable society. They pretend like they are still constructing this today. They aren't constructing it today. This thing is done. It's been done. And we aren't building another one. So we used to build with stone and marble in the 1800s, supposedly. So we must have been using plastic siding for centuries before that, right? Since we are, of course, a civilization of advancement and evolving. So what is this in 1950? We begin to build worse than before? Fine, it's cost effective. But why lose all ability all over the world to ever construct a building ever again? The way they were built in the past with marble and stone, not one. You would think it would be even 95% plastic siding, 5% stone and marble, or even 99% siding and 1% stone and marble. But the fact that there is not one single structure in the world being built like the old world is telling, to say the least. It does remind me of when Don Pettit said that the telemetry data has been deleted, and it's a painful process to get it back.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Except with buildings. We know that it was possible. There's physical proof. It's right here in front of all of us, all over the world. Why are we no longer able to construct like this? Any architect or construction worker will agree. The technology is missing. It's hidden from us at the very least, and we would like it back now. And we have a bonus today. We have some more breaking news of buildings being burned to the ground today. A historic Massachusetts church that dates back to 1743. It became engulfed in flames this past Friday. The first congregational church in Spencer, Massachusetts, about 50 miles outside of Boston. This church was set ablaze after suspected of being hit by lightning, because we all know that lightning strikes every house on the block. Oh, no, that's not true. Lightning only strikes structures that are from the old world and burns them right to the ground. That's what it was. Now I remember. It's unbelievable how many old world buildings are just being destroyed even today. All over the world. Flames burst out the sides of the ancient church's steeple and quickly spread to the ground floor. Before the raging fire ultimately overcame it, the church was empty, of course, when the fire broke out. Nobody was around to see who started the fire. When the lightning struck, the pastor of the Protestant church, whose congregation is around 30 people, revealed that it's too early to know if the church can be rebuilt. What is this? An admission that they cannot rebuild the church? In 2023? I thought we were the most technologically advanced civilization of all time. Evolution, I thought. So people in the 1700s put this thing up with horse and wagon. But in 2023, we're unsure if we can even build it. This should shake anyone up at this point. This is clear admission that these buildings were not built by our current civilization. It's just horrible that they seem to be burning these things down by the day. And they've been doing it for hundreds of years now. Just a reminder to enjoy the ones that we still have. Oh wait, there's more? In January 1862, a fire completely destroyed the house of worship. It was rebuilt in 1863 and stood until Friday's fire. You're telling me this is the second time they burned this place down? I'm guessing the 1862 fire didn't get the job done. And I want to point out one more thing. Did we all catch it? 1862, it was burned, and it was rebuilt in a year in 1863. So they needed to try again and burn it down on Friday. Horrible and so repetitive. The odds that the fires find their way into nearly every old world building is 0%. Yet it happens. Why doesn't the fire ever go to a random house right next door instead? Not every house on the block goes up in fire, but every old world building does. And not just once. It happens multiple times. Don't forget that there are a bunch of brand new t-shirts. You can find them right below this video. Every purchase will help support the channel, as well as when you like the video, comment, and when you subscribe to the channel. I couldn't be more thankful for all of the support you guys are giving. Our Twitter account.
Alright, that shit was crazy, but I can't get a freaking kill. Can't get a freaking kill for nothing, bro. Saturday Night Battlefield, huh? Good idea, yeah, it was. Back up. Come on! That's crazy. That's crazy. Crazy, bro.
The Entered Apprentice's lecture. Brother, is there anything between you and me?
Fire.
There is, right worshipful.
What is it, brother, pray?
A secret.
What is that secret, brother?
Masonry.
Then I presume you are a Mason?
I am so taken and accepted among brothers and fellows.
Pray what sort of a man ought a Mason to be?
A man that is born of a free woman.
Where was you first prepared to be made a Mason?
In my heart.
Where was you next prepared?
In a room adjoining to the lodge.
How was you prepared, brother?
I was neither naked nor clothed, barefoot nor shod, deprived of all metal, hoodwinked, with a cable tow about my neck, where I was led to the door of the lodge, in a halting moving posture, by the hand of a friend, whom I afterwards found to be a brother.
How do you know it to be a door, you being blinded?
By finding a stoppage, and afterwards an entrance or admittance.
How got you admittance?
By 3 knocks.
What was said to you within?
Who comes there?
Your answer, brother?
One who begs to have and receive part of the benefit of this right worshipful lodge, dedicated to St. John, as many brothers and fellows have done before me.
How do you expect to obtain it?
By being freeborn and well reported.
What was said to you then?
Enter.
How did you enter, and upon what?
Upon the point of a sword, or spear, or some warlike instrument. Presented to my naked left breast.
What was said to you then?
I was asked if I felt anything.
What was your answer?
I did, but I could see nothing.
You have told me how you was received. Pray, who received you?
The junior warden.
How did he dispose of you?
He delivered me to the master, who ordered me to kneel down and receive the benefit of a prayer.
Brethren, let us pray. O Lord God, thou great and universal Mason of the world, and first builder of man, as it were a temple, be with us, O Lord, as thou hast promised, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in thy name, thou wilt be in the midst of them. Be with us, O Lord, and bless all our undertakings, and grant that this our friend may become a faithful brother. Let grace and peace be multiplied unto him, through the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ, and grant, O Lord, as he putteth forth his hand to thy holy word, that he may also put forth his hand to serve a brother, but not to hurt himself or his family, that thereby may be given to us great and precious promises, that by this we may be partakers of thy divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. O Lord God, add to our faith, virtue, and to virtue, knowledge, and to knowledge, temperance, and to temperance, prudence, and to prudence,
Temperance,
patience,
oh,
and to
shit.
patience,
They came in
godliness,
there.
and to
Stepped
godliness,
up too
brotherly
much.
love, and to brotherly love. Charity, and grant, O Lord, that masonry may be blessed throughout the world, and thy peace be upon
What's
us,
up? How
O
you
Lord,
doing?
and grant that we may be all united as one, through Jesus Christ, who liveth and reigneth forever and ever. Amen. After this prayer, what was said to you?
Make me.
I was asked who I put my trust in.
Your answer, brother?
In God.
What was the next thing said to you?
I was taken by the right hand, and a brother said, Rise up, and follow your leader, and fear
Damn,
no
my
danger.
axe is back. I had to
After
die, I
all
guess.
this, how was you disposed of?
I was led 3 times
My
round the
tank is
lodge.
coming.
Where did you meet with the first opposition?
At the back of the junior warden in the south, where I gave the same 3 knocks as at the door.
What answer did he give you?
Made
He
that fool
said,
get
Who
back.
comes there?
Your answer?
The same as at the door, one who begs to have and receive, etc.
Come on.
Where did you meet with the second opposition?
At the back of the senior warden in the west, where I made the same repetition as at the door. He said, Who comes there? One who begs to have, etc.
Where did you meet with the third opposition?
At the back of the master in the east, where I made the repetition as before.
What did the master do with you?
He ordered me back to the senior warden in the west to receive instructions.
What were the instructions he gave you?
He taught me to take 1 step upon the first step of a right angle oblong square, with my left knee bare bent, my body upright, my right foot forming a square, my naked right hand upon the Holy Bible, with the square and compass thereon, my left hand supporting the same, where I took that solemn obligation or oath of a mason.
Brother, can you repeat that obligation?
I will do my endeavor, with your assistance, worshipful.
Stand up and begin. Here the oath is repeated, as mentioned before. After repeating this obligation, they drink a toast to the heart that conceals, and to the tongue that never reveals. The master in the chair gives it, and they all say ditto, and draw the glasses across their throats as aforesaid. Now, brother, after you received the obligation, what was said to you?
I was asked what I most desired.
What was your answer?
To be brought to light.
Who brought you to light?
The master and the rest of the brethren.
When you was thus brought to light, what were the first things you saw?
The Bible, square, and compass.
What was it they told you they signified?
3 great lights in masonry.
Explain them, brother.
The Bible to rule and govern our faith, the square to square our actions, the compass to keep within bounds with all men, particularly with a brother.
What were the next things that were shown to you?
3 candles, which I was told were 3 lesser lights in masonry.
What do they represent?
The sun, moon, and master mason.
Why so, brother?
There is the sun to rule the day, the moon to rule the night, and the master mason is lodge, or at least ought so to do.
What was then done to you?
The master took me by the right hand, and gave me the grip and word of an
crazy.
entered apprentice, and said, Rise, my brother Jachin.
Sometimes they show you the sign before the grip and word is given, which is Jachin. It is the entered apprentice's word, and the grip there to belonging is to
You
pinch
have
with your
music
right
that's
thumbnail
perfect for my
upon the
stream. You're
first joint of
probably
your
a
brother's
bot,
right
though.
hand.
Like,
Have you got this grip and word, brother?
that's the only bad thing.
I have, right worshipful.
Give it to your brother. Then he takes his next
this
brother
is-
by the
to
right
carry
hand
messages
and gives
from-
him the grip and the word as before described.
I don't know.
The first brother gives him the grip. The second brother says,
What's this?
Also, music is cool, but like, I'm good. Thanks, though. Appreciate it.
We have begun our attack on Charlie.
Dang, so that shit's glitching too? Oh, they gotta fix some shit. That's what's going on. Some new bugs got introduced. That's what it is. But nah, yeah, I got some music and shit too, but I ain't trying to deal with copyright shit, so I'd rather listen to some enlightenment instead. You dig?
the grip of an entered apprentice.
Has it got a name?
It has.
Will you give it me?
I'll letter it with you, or halve it.
I'll have it with you.
Begin.
No, you begin first.
J.A.
Chin.
J.A. Chin.
It is, right worshipful master.
What was the next thing that was shown to you?
The guard or sign of an entered apprentice.
Have you got the guard or sign of an entered apprentice? He draws his right hand across his throat, as aforesaid, to show the master that he has. After this, what was said to you?
Should I go?
I was ordered to be taken back and invested with what I had been divested of, and to be brought back again to return thanks,
there he
and to
goes.
receive the benefit of a lecture, if time would
I didn't know
permit.
where he was at.
After what you had been divested of was restored, what was next done to you?
I was brought to the northwest corner of the lodge, in order to return thanks.
How did you return thanks?
I stood in the northwest corner of the lodge, and with the instruction of a brother I said, Master, senior and junior wardens, senior and junior deacons,
people
and the
right
rest of the
there.
brethren of this lodge, I return you thanks for the honor you have done me in making me a Mason, and admitting me a member of this worthy society.
What was then said to you?
They got him, fine.
The master called me up to the northwest corner of the lodge at his right hand.
Did he present you with anything?
He
He presented me with an apron, which he put on me. He told me it was a badge of innocence, more ancient than the Golden Fleece or the Roman Eagle, more honorable than the Star and Garter, or any other order under the sun that could be conferred upon me at that time, or any time hereafter.
What were the next things that were shown you?
I was set down by the master's right hand, who showed me the working tools of an entered apprentice.
What were they?
The 24-inch gauge, the square, and common gavel, or setting maul.
What are their uses?
The square to square my work, the 24-inch gauge to measure my work, the common gavel to knock off all superfluous matter, whereby the square makes it easy and just.
Brother, as we are not all working masons, we apply them to our morals, which we call spiritualizing. Explain them.
The 24-inch gauge represents the 24 hours of the day.
How do you spend them, brother?
6 hours to work in, 6 hours to serve God, and 6 to serve a friend or a brother as far as lies in my power, without being detrimental to myself or family.
I come now to the entered apprentices' reasons, but as the ceremony of drinking healths among the masons takes up much of their time, we must stop a little in order to introduce some of them. The first is, to the heart that conceals, and the tongue that never reveals, then, the king and royal family, and, to all brethren wheresoever dispersed. The pleasures they enjoy, the purity of their sentiments, and the uniformity that always reigns in their assemblies, are far from being tiresome or insipid. I next proceed to the entered apprentices' reasons. Why was you neither naked nor clothed, barefoot nor shod, with a cable tow or halter about your neck?
If I had recanted and ran out into the street, the people would have said I was mad, but if a brother had seen me, he would have brought me back, and seen me done justice by.
Why was you hoodwinked?
That my heart may conceal before my eyes did discover.
The second
Damn,
reason,
are they blowing
brother,
my shit up already?
As I was in darkness at that time, I should keep all the world in darkness.
why was you deprived of all metals?
That I should bring nothing offensive or defensive into the lodge.
Give me the second reason, brother.
As I was poor and penniless when I was made a Mason, it informed me that I should assist all poor and penniless brethren as far as lies in my power.
You told me you gave 3 distinct knocks at the door. Pray, what do they signify?
A certain text in Scripture.
What is the text?
Ask, and you shall have, seek, and you shall find, knock, and it shall be opened unto you.
How do you apply this text in masonry?
I sought it in my mind, I asked of my friend, I knocked, and the door of masonry became open unto me.
Why had you a sword, spear, some other warlike instrument presented to your naked left breast particularly?
Because the left breast is the nearest the heart, that it might be the more a prick to my conscience, as it pricked my flesh at that time.
Why was you led 3 times round the lodge?
That all the brethren might see I was duly prepared.
When you was made an apprentice, why was your left knee bare bent?
Because the left knee is the weakest part of my body, and an entered apprentice is the weakest part of masonry, into which degree I was then entering.
Here the brethren resume their glasses, and drink a health, sometimes to the Grand Master, at other times to the wardens or other officers, and then proceed. The form of a lodge. Brother, pray what makes a lodge?
Right worshipful, a certain number of masons met together to work.
Pray what number makes a lodge?
3, 5, 7, or 11.
Why do 3 make a lodge, brother?
Because there were 3 grand masons in the building of the world, and also that noble piece of architecture, man, which are so complete in proportion that the ancients began their architecture by the same rules.
The second reason, brother?
There were 3 grand masons at the building of Solomon's temple.
Why do 5 make a lodge?
Because every man is endowed with 5 senses.
What are the 5 senses?
Hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, and feeling.
What are those 5 senses to you in masonry?
3 are of great use to me, viz. hearing, feeling, and seeing.
Of what use are they, brother?
Hearing is to hear the word, seeing is to see the sign, feeling is to feel the grip, that I may know a brother as well in the dark as in the light.
Why should 7 make a lodge?
Because there are 7 liberal sciences.
Will you name them, brother?
Grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy.
Brother, what do those sciences teach you?
Grammar teaches me the art of writing, and speaking the language taught me, according to the first, second, and third concord.
What doth rhetoric teach you?
The art of speaking upon any topic whatsoever.
What doth logic teach you?
The art of reasoning well, whereby you may find out truth from falsehood.
What doth arithmetic teach you?
The use of numbers.
What doth geometry teach you?
The art of measuring, whereby the Egyptians found out their own land, or the same quantity which they had before the overflowing of the river Nile, that frequently used to water their country, at which time they fled to the mountains till it went off again, and this made them have continual quarrels about their lands.
What doth music teach you, brother?
The virtue of sounds.
What doth astronomy teach you?
The knowledge of the heavenly bodies.
Why should 11 make a lodge, brother?
There were 11 patriarchs when Joseph was sold into Egypt and supposed to be lost.
The second reason, brother?
There were but 11 apostles when Judas betrayed Christ.
What form is your lodge?
An oblong square.
How long, brother?
From east to west.
How wide, brother?
Between north and south.
How high, brother?
From the earth to the heavens.
How deep, brother?
From the surface of the earth to the center.
Why is your lodge said to be from the surface to the center of the earth?
Because that masonry is universal.
Why is your lodge situated east and west?
Because all churches or chapels are, or ought to be so.
Why so, brother?
Because the gospel was first preached in the east, and extended itself to the west.
What supports your lodge?
3 great pillars.
What are their names?
Wisdom, strength, and beauty.
Who doth the pillar of wisdom represent?
The master in the east.
Who doth the pillar of strength represent?
The senior warden in the west.
Who doth the pillar of beauty represent?
The junior warden in the south.
Why should the master represent the pillar of wisdom?
Because he gives instructions to the crafts to carry on their work in a proper manner, with good harmony.
Why should the senior warden represent the pillar of strength?
As the sun sets to finish the day, so the senior warden stands in the west to pay the hirelings their wages, which is the strength and support of all business.
Why should the junior warden represent the pillar of beauty?
Because he stands in the south at high 12 at noon, which is the beauty of the day, to call the men off from work to refreshment, and to see that they come on again in due time, that the master may have pleasure and profit therein.
Why is it said that your lodge is supported by those 3 great pillars, wisdom, strength, and beauty?
Because wisdom, strength, and beauty are the finishers of all work, and nothing can be carried on without them.
Why so, brother?
Because there is wisdom to contrive, strength to support, and beauty to adorn.
Had you any covering to your lodge?
Yes, a clouded canopy of divers colors.
How blows a mason's wind, brother?
Due east and west.
What o'clock is it, brother?
High 12.
Call the men off from work to refreshment, and see that they come on again in due time. The entered apprentice's lecture being finished, it is customary for the master to call upon one of the brethren, who can best acquit himself, for the following song, which is always readily complied with song. At the conclusion of the entered apprentice's lecture, come let us prepare, we brothers that are assembled on every occasion. Let us drink, laugh, and sing, our wine has a spring, here's a health to an accepted mason. Chorus, let us drink, etc. The world is in pain, our secrets to gain, but still let them wonder and gaze on. They never can divine the word or the sign of a free and an accepted mason. Tease this, and tease that, they cannot tell what, why so many great men of the nation should put aprons on, to make themselves one with a free and an accepted mason. Great kings, dukes, and lords have laid by their swords, our mystery to put a good grace on, and never been ashamed to hear themselves named with a free and an accepted mason. Antiquity's pride we have on our side, and it maketh men just in their station, there's naught but what's good. To be understood by a free and an accepted mason. We're true and sincere, and just to the fair, who will trust us on every occasion. No mortal can more the ladies adore than a free and an accepted Mason. Then join hand in hand, to each other firm stand, let's be merry and put a bright face
Damn,
on.
there's a lot
What
of them,
mortal
too.
can boast so noble a toast as a free and an accepted Mason? While this song is singing, they all stand round the table, and when they come to the last verse, they join hands crossways in the following manner. The right-hand man takes hold of the left hand of his neighbor with his right hand, and the left-hand man takes hold of the right hand of his next brother with his left hand, so as to form a chain by so many links, and all join in the chorus, jumping violently with their feet on the floor, and shaking their hands up and down, linked together as above, keeping exact time with both. Everyone now talks of what he pleases, and as it is generally half an hour before they proceed to business, those who perhaps have ordered a supper retire into another room, but before they are permitted, the master proceeds to call the men off from work, as it is termed, which is done in this manner. The master whispers to the senior deacon, who sits on his right hand, and says, "It is high time to call the men from work to refresh themselves." The senior deacon whispers to the senior warden, and it is communicated from him to the junior deacon, who carries it to the junior warden. He proclaims it openly to the lodge, and sets his column upright. And the senior warden lays his down, which signifies that the junior warden is entrusted with the care of the lodge while the brethren refresh themselves. In this place it will be necessary to acquaint the reader how he may discover an entered apprentice by drinking with him in company. Take the glass with your right hand and draw it across your throat, either before or after you drink. And if an apprentice is present, he will immediately take notice of it, by asking you some question in masonry, which you will readily answer from this book. If he asks the meaning of your doing that, you may whisper to him that it is the penalty of the obligation of an entered apprentice. From this answer he will proceed farther in his inquiry. The brethren having now regaled themselves, they take their seats, and the master proceeds to set them on again, which is performed in the same manner as the calling off, with this difference: the warden proclaims, "It is our worshipful master's pleasure that this lodge is called from refreshment to work." The junior warden lays down his column, and the senior sets his
Help me,
up.
please. Help me, please.
But as it often
please.
happens that the time will not permit for the fellow crafts lecture, they close the lodge, which is done after the same manner as that of opening. The senior warden declares it in the following words: "It is our master's will and pleasure that this lodge stand closed till the 1st or 3rd Wednesday in next month, according to the night the lodge is held." Then the master, wardens, deacons, secretary, etc., take off the ensigns and ornaments from their necks, and everyone is at liberty to depart or stay longer. Everything of masonry is excluded. They talk of what they please, and sing for their amusement. I shall now proceed to the second degree of masonry, called the fellow crafts, that is, one who has served his time justly and lawfully as an entered apprentice, and desires to become more perfect in masonry, by being a fellow craft. But in most lodges at this time, they are made entered apprentices and fellow crafts the same evening. The ceremony is the same, though they have different lectures, password, and grip, belonging to each.
Tango spotted, 50 meters away from
God damn. Crazy.
The fellow crafts lecture. Brother, are you a fellow craft?
I am. Try me, prove me.
Where was you made a fellow craft?
In a just and lawful lodge.
How was you prepared to be made a fellow craft?
I was neither naked nor clothed, barefoot nor shod, in a halting moving posture, deprived of all metal. I was led to the door of the lodge by the hand of a brother.
How got you admittance?
By 3 distinct knocks.
What was said to you within?
Who comes there?
Your answer, brother?
One who has served his time justly and lawfully as an entered apprentice, and now begs to become more perfect in masonry by being admitted a fellow craft.
How do you expect to attain to this
Oh, I
degree?
didn't even see him.
By
I
the
was going
benefit
to
of a password.
kill that vehicle
Have you got
inside.
that password?
That's crazy.
I have.
Give it me, brother.
Shibboleth.
What did he then say to you?
Pass, Shibboleth.
What became of you, then?
I was led twice round the lodge.
Where did you meet with the first opposition?
At the back of the senior warden.
Where did you meet with the second opposition?
At the back of the master, where I repeated the same as before.
What did he do with you?
He ordered me back to the
Dead.
senior warden to receive instructions.
What instructions did he give you?
He taught me to show the master my due guard, and to take 2 steps upon the second step of a right-angled oblong square, with my right knee bent bare, my left foot forming a square. My body upright, my right hand upon the Holy Bible, my left arm supported by the points of the compasses, forming a square, or I took the obligation of a fellowcraft.
Have you got that obligation, brother?
I have, right worshipful.
Can you repeat it?
I'll do my endeavor, right worshipful, with your assistance.
Pray stand up, let the brethren hear it. The obligation of a fellow craft.
I, AAB, of my own free will and accord, and in the presence of Almighty God, and this right worshipful lodge, dedicated to St. John, do hereby swear that I will always hail, conceal, and never reveal that part of a fellowcraft to an entered apprentice, or either of them, except it be in a true and lawful lodge of crafts, him or them whom I shall find to be such, after just trial and examination. I do furthermore swear that I will answer all the signs and summonses sent to me from a lodge of crafts, within the length of a cable tow. I also swear that I will not wrong a brother, nor see him wronged, but give him timely notice of all approaching dangers whatsoever, so far as in me is. I will also serve a brother as much as lies in my power, without being detrimental to myself or family, and I will keep all my brother's secrets as my own, that shall be delivered to me as such, murder and treason excepted. All this I swear with a firm resolution to perform the same, without any equivocation or hesitation in me whatsoever, under no less penalty than to have my heart torn from my naked left breast, and given to the vultures of the air as a prey. So help me God, and keep me steadfast in this my fellowcraft's obligation.
Kisses the book. Thank you, brother. After you received this obligation, pray what was shown to you.
The sign of a fellowcraft.
Pray give it me.
I will, right worshipful.
He stands up and puts his right hand to his left breast, keeping his thumb square and his left hand raised up, so as to form a square. What was next done to you?
He took me by the right hand, and gave me the grip and word of a fellowcraft, and the pass grip.
What did he then do to you?
He took me by the right hand and said, Rise, brother Boaz.
What followed after that, brother?
He ordered me back, when everything I had been divested of was restored, and I was brought in again, in order to return thanks.
Being thus admitted, brother, did you ever work as a craft?
Yes, right worshipful, in building the temple.
Where did you receive your wages?
In the middle chamber.
When you came to the door of the middle chamber, pray who did you see?
A warden.
What did he demand of you?
The password of a fellowcraft.
Did you give it him?
I did, right worshipful.
Pray what is it?
Shibboleth.
How got you to the middle chamber?
Through the porch.
Did you see anything worth your notice?
I did, right worshipful.
What was it?
2 fine brass pillars.
What are their names?
Jachin and Boaz.
How high were these pillars?
35 cubits, with chapiter 5 cubits, which made 40 in the whole.
This is described more clearly in the 3rd chapter of the 2nd book of Chronicles, verse 15. What were they ornamented with, brother?
2 chapiters, each 5 cubits in height.
What were they adorned with besides?
Lilywork, network, and pomegranates.
Were they hollow, brother?
Yes, right worshipful.
How thick was the outside coat?
4 inches.
Where were they cast?
On the plain of Jordan, between Succos and Zartha, in a clay ground, where all Solomon's holy vessels were cast.
Who cast them, brother?
Hiram Abiff, the widow's son.
This generally
Hiram
finishes
Abiff.
the fellow crafts lecture, and very few lodges go so far in their questions and answers. Therefore, in order to enliven the company, the master asks some good singer to favor them with the following song, which is commonly sung with great energy and rapture throughout the lodge, every brother bearing a part in the chorus. The fellow craft song. Hail, masonry! Thou craft divine! Glory of earth, from heaven revealed, which does with jewels precious shine, from all but masons' eyes concealed. Chorus. Thy praise is due who can rehearse in nervous prose or flowing verse. As men from brutes distinguished are, a mason other men excels, for what's in knowledge choice or rare but in his breast securely dwells. His silent breast and faithful heart preserves the secrets of the art. From scorching heat and piercing cold, from beasts whose roar the forest rends. From the assaults of warriors bold, the mason's art mankind defends. Chorus. Be to this art due honor paid, from which mankind receives such aid. Ensigns of state that feed our pride, distinctions troublesome and vain, by masons true are laid aside, ART's freeborn sons such toys disdain. Chorus. Ennobled by the name they bear, distinguished by the badge they wear. Sweet fellowship, from envy free, friendly converse of brotherhood. The lodge's lasting cement be, which has for ages firmly stood. Chorus. A lodge thus built for ages past has lasted, and will ever last. Then in our songs be justice done to those who have enriched the art, from Jabal down to Aberda. And let each brother bear a part. Chorus. Let noble masons' healths go round, their praise in lofty lodge resound. In company the fellow craft takes the pot or glass and draws it across his left breast, and touches it, the penalty being this, that he would sooner have his heart torn from his left breast, and given to the fowls of the air, than discover the secrets of masonry. Sometimes this is done with the right hand only, as it is less taken notice of by strangers.
Someone! Get over here and help me! Please.
That's crazy, bro. I can't believe it.
Having given the entered apprentice and fellow crafts part, I now proceed to the third and last degree of masonry, which is termed the master's part, it being performed in the same manner as the other two, viz., by way of question and answer, and is as follows. Brother, where have you been?
In the west.
And where are you going?
To the east.
Why do you leave the west and go to the east?
Because the light of the gospel was first shown in the east.
What are you going to do in the east?
To seek for a lodge of masters.
Then you are a master mason, I presume.
I am so taken and accepted among masters.
Where was you made a master?
In a lodge of masters.
How was you prepared to be made a master?
My shoes were taken off my feet, my arms and breast were naked, and I was deprived of all metals. In this manner I was led to the door of the lodge.
How got you admittance?
By 3 distinct knocks.
What was then said to you from within?
Who comes there?
Your answer, brother?
One who hath lawfully and truly served his time as an entered apprentice and fellow craft, and now begs to attain the last and most honorable degree of masonry by being admitted a master.
How do you expect to attain it?
By the benefit of a password.
Can you give me that word, brother?
I can and will, right worshipful.
Pray give it me, then.
Tubal Cain.
What was then said to you?
Enter Tubal Cain.
How was you disposed of?
I was led round the lodge.
Where did you meet with the first opposition?
At the back of the master.
What did he demand of you?
Come on, what
The
was
same
that?
as at
Oh,
the
he was
door.
right there.
How did he dispose of you?
He ordered me back to the senior warden in the west to receive proper instructions.
I knew he was
What were
somewhere.
these
I
instructions,
just didn't find
brother?
him.
He instructed me as I stood in the west, first, to show the master in the east the dugard or sign of an entered apprentice, and take 1 step upon the first step of the right angle of an oblong square, with my left foot forming a square. Secondly, to make 2 steps upon the same oblong square, and to show the sign of a fellow craft. Thirdly, I was taught to take 2 steps upon the same oblong square, with both my knees bent and bare, my body upright, my right hand upon the Holy Bible, both points of a pair of compasses being pointed to my right and left breast, where I took the solemn oath or obligation of a master mason.
Brother, can you remember the obligation you speak of?
I'll do my endeavor, right worshipful, with your assistance.
Pray stand up and begin.
I, AAB, of my own free will and accord, and in the presence of Almighty God in this right worshipful lodge, dedicated to Holy St. John, do hereby and herein most solemnly and sincerely swear that I will always hail, conceal, and never reveal this part of a master mason to a fellow craft, any more than that of a fellow craft to an apprentice, or any of them to the rest of the world, except in a true and lawful lodge of masters, him or them whom I shall find to be such after a just trial and examination. I furthermore do swear that I will attend all summonses sent to me from a lodge of masters, if within the length of a cable tow. I will also keep all my brother's secrets as my own, treason and murder excepted, and that at my own free will. I will not wrong a brother, or see him wrong, but give him notice of all danger, as far as in my power lies. And I also swear that I will conform myself to all the laws and institutions of this lodge.
Wow.
All this I swear, with a firm and fixed resolution to perform the same, under no less
There we
penalty
go.
than to have my body severed in two, the one part carried to the south, and the other to the north, my bowels burned to ashes, and the ashes to be scattered to the four winds of the heavens, that no farther remembrance of such a vile wretch may exist among men, and in particular Masons. So help me God, and keep me steadfast in this my master's obligation.
Kisses the book. Thank you, brother. Pray what was shown you after you received this obligation.
One of the master's signs.
The sign is given by drawing your right hand across your belly, which is the penalty of the obligation. Then he gives the master the grip of an apprentice, who says,
What's this?
the person answers,
The grip of an entered apprentice.
has it got a name?
It has.
Will you give it me?
Jachin.
Will you be of all from?
From.
From what, brother?
From an entered apprentice to a fellow craft.
Pass, brother. He puts his thumb between the first and second joint, which is the pass grip, and you pronounce the word shibboleth. What was done to you after that?
He took me by the grip of a fellow craft and said, What's this?
Your answer, brother?
The grip of a fellow craft.
Has it got a name?
It has.
Ah, I
Will you
couldn't
give
do
it
it
me?
quick enough.
Boaz.
What was then said to you?
Rise up, brother Boaz.
Brother, what followed?
He told me I represented one of the greatest men in the world, viz. Our Grand Master Hiram, who was killed just at the finishing of the temple, and the manner of his death is thus related. There were originally 15 fellow crafts, who, perceiving the temple almost finished, and not having received the master's word, they grew impatient, and agreed to extort it from their master Hiram, the first opportunity they could find of meeting him alone, that they might pass for masters in other countries, and receive the wages or profits of masters. But before they could accomplish their scheme, 12 of them recanted. The other 3 were obstinate, and determined to have it by force, if no other way could be found. Their names were Jubila, Jubilo, and Jubilam. It being always the custom of Hiram at 12 at noon, as soon as the men were called off to refresh themselves, to go into the Sanctum Sanctorum, or Holy of Holies, to pay his devotion to the true and living God, the 3 assassins above mentioned placed themselves at the east, west, and south doors of the temple. At the north there was no entrance, because the rays of the sun never dart from that point. Hiram, having finished his prayer to the Lord, came to the east door, which he found guarded by Jubila, who demanded the master's grip in a resolute manner. He received for answer from Hiram that it was not customary to ask it in such a strain, that he himself did not receive it so, adding that he must wait, and time and patience would bring it about. He told him farther that it was not in his power alone to reveal it, except in the presence of Solomon,
hacked,
king
all
of
type of
Israel,
shit.
and Hiram, king of Tyre. Jubila, being dissatisfied with this answer, struck him across the throat with a 24-inch gauge. Hiram, upon this usage, flew to the south door of the temple, where he was met by Jubilo, who asked him the master's grip and word in like manner as Jubila had done before, and on receiving the same answer from his master, he gave him a violent blow with a square upon his left breast, which made him reel. Upon recovering his strength, he ran to the west door, the only way left him of escaping, and on being interrogated by Jubilam to the same purport, who guarded that passage, to whom he replied as at first, he received a terrible fracture upon his head with a gavel or setting maul, which occasioned his death. After this they carried his body out at the west door, and hid it under some rubbish till 12 o'clock the next night, when they met by agreement, and buried him on the side of a hill, in a grave 6 feet perpendicular, dug east and west.
After you was thus knocked down, what was said to you then?
I was told I
Sheesh.
represented one of the greatest men in the world lying dead,
Cannon.
viz. our Grand Master Hiram.
Thank you, brother. Pray go on.
As I lay on my back, the master informed me how Hiram was found, and by what means the 3 ruffians were discovered, as follows. Our master Hiram,
That's
not
weird.
coming to view the workmen as usual, King Solomon caused strict search to be made,
Okay.
but this proving ineffectual, he was supposed to be dead. The 12 fellow crafts who recanted, hearing the report, their consciences pricking them, went to Solomon
Oh,
with white
okay.
aprons and gloves, emblems of their innocence, and informed him of everything relative to the affair, as far as they knew, and offered their assistance in order to discover the 3 other fellow crafts who had absconded. They separated and divided themselves into 4 parties, 3 east, west, north, and south, in quest of the murderers. As one of the 12 was traveling on the seaside near Joppa, being fatigued, he sat down to refresh himself,
Try to
but
get
was
his
soon
ass.
alarmed by the following hideous exclamations
Where's
from
the
the
tank?
cliff of a rock. Oh, that my throat had been cut across, my tongue torn out by the root, and buried in the sands of the sea at low water mark, a cable's length from the shore, where the tide ebbs and flows twice in 24 hours, ere I had consented to the death of our Grandmaster Hiram. Oh, says another, that my heart had been torn from under my naked left breast, and given a prey to the vultures of the air, rather than I had been concerned in the death of so good a master. But, says a third, I struck him harder than you both. It was I that killed him. Oh, that my body had been severed in two, and scattered to the south and north, my bowels burned to ashes in the south, and scattered between the four winds of the earth, ere I had been the cause of the death of our good master Hiram. The fellowcraft, hearing this, went in quest of his two associates, and they entered the cliff of the rock, took and bound them fast, and brought them to King Solomon, before whom they voluntarily
Almost
confessed
over.
their guilt, and begged to die. The sentence passed on them was the same as they expressed in their lamentation in the cliff. Jubilah's throat was cut across, Jubilah's heart was torn from under his left breast, and Jubilam's body was severed in two, and scattered to the south and north. When the execution was over, King Solomon sent for the 12 crafts, and desired them to take the body of Hiram up, in order that it might be interred in a solemn manner in the Sanctum Sanctorum. He also told them that if they could not find a keyword about him, it was lost, for there were only 3 in the world to whom it was known, and unless they were present, it could not be delivered. Hiram being dead, it consequently lost.
Damn.
However, as Solomon ordered, they went and cleared the rubbish, and found their master in a mangled condition, having lain 15 days, upon which they lifted up their hands above their heads in astonishment, and said, O Lord, my God. This being the first word and sign, King Solomon adopted it as the grand sign of a master mason, and it is used at this day in all the lodges of masters.
Brother, when Hiram thus found dead, how was he raised?
By the 5 points of fellowship.
What are these points of fellowship?
He was taken by the entered apprentice's grip, and the skin slipped off. Then he was taken by the fellowcraft's grip, which also slipped off, and lastly by the master's grip.
Brother, it appears you could not have been raised, but by the 5 points of fellowship. Pray explain them.
Hand in hand signifies that I will always put forth my hand to serve a brother as far as in my power lies.
Try to hit me with a grenade.
Foot to foot, that I never will be afraid to go a foot out of my way to serve a brother. Knee to knee, that when I pray, I should never forget my brother's welfare. Breast to breast, to show I will keep my brother's secrets as my own.
And my
The
gun
left
didn't
hand
kill him.
supporting the back, that I will always support a brother as far
Sheesh.
as I can, without being detrimental to my own family.
Thank you,
I know.
brother. But pray
I'll
why
let
was you
y'all
deprived
later.
of all metal?
Peace.
Because there was neither axe, hammer, nor sound of any metal tool heard in the building of the Temple of Solomon.
Why so, brother?
Because it
Save that part till later. I'll holla though.